I'm not leading you down a path that you don't want to go. Welcome, everybody.
Hello, hello.
How you doing, Karen?
How am I doing? I'm feeling a little rushed this morning, but I got my workout in, so that's one of my ongoing commitments to myself. So I feel good about that. But I'm settling now. The day is not as crazy from a timing perspective now. How
Okay.
about you?
Well, hopefully we can get you settled down. Am I? I don't feel super frantic. I feel like I'm more prepared than usual. But that said, I've had something weighing on me for uh, years. But the last week, was it last week that we did our last session? Um, I was able to get coached on something that really supported me, and it's helped start letting some air out of the balloon because it's felt like it's been like tied in there for forever, and now it's slowly starting to move, and that makes me feel a lot more at ease with where I'm at, even though I know I have a lot of things in front of me and most of them are unknown. I feel like something is happening, so I feel more at ease.
What do you think that experience of being coached last week when you said the air out of the balloon? What do you think that was for you after you were coached? Could you name it?
Oh, I think I just feel like I've been holding this in for so long. So, and I've never used that metaphor before. So the fact that, like, when you hold your breath,
Hmm.
like there's, um, you're just not pulling in enough oxygen because you're always like under the gun. And I feel like that there's a pressure in not letting it out. And if I let it out, what happens if I let it out too fast? What happens if like this all gets away from me, right? So there's a lot of fear in there. Um, so I don't think I've named it necessarily. I just know that it feels better now that I've voiced it a few times. So I've let out a few spurts of air. You open up the little mouth of the balloon as it, and now that I've voiced it a couple of times to other people other than me, now there seems to be a slower, steady stream of air that's coming out. So it's
Oh,
like it's starting to relax. Yeah, I'm not relaxed. I'm not like, but it's I'm not afraid that it's going to burst. I'm not afraid that it's not going in the right direction. And each time I talk to somebody, I get a little bit more information, even though it's not all sorted. So yeah, yeah. So it's good. Coaching's great.
it is good.
That's not what we're here to talk about today, though.
We're avoiding what we don't want to talk about.
No, we're not avoiding it. You help me check in. You help me
Yeah.
give a little bit of meaning to the metaphor that I used, which is helpful in coaching. And you and I both like metaphors. So today, would you like some feedback? I would ask anybody who sees this and heard that, would you like some feedback? I would ask you, what's your first reaction when somebody asks you, would you like some feedback?
Mm.
Karen, would you like some feedback?
Well, as I said to you earlier, I actually, as the universe usually does to me and you, I had an opportunity to get this particular statement made to me without my request. And it was, can I give you some feedback? And
And whenever you've been asked for feedback, asked if you want feedback, has it ever been something positive? Like, that was the most amazing thing I've ever seen. You looked so composed on stage and you had such a rhythm to your speech. And oh my, I was captivated. Has it ever been like that?
rarely.
No.
However, you asked what happens, and I will tell you,
Yes, that's where I want to start.
yeah, no, it was a great question. I just was giving it another statement way of being. It often isn't asked. It's kind of, you feel like it's a bit of a demand. That's how it feels like to me. I can't say no. And number two, I tighten right up. My gut immediately goes into like full force, like core tightness is an automatic, unsolicited, uncontrollable body reaction.
And then what?
I either stay silent because I wait to see what's going to happen, or I typically will permit it to happen.
Are you okay with that?
I wouldn't. Oh, that's such a great question. Am I okay with it? That's a great way of kind of neutralizing it. Okay, it's okay. No, it's not okay. I'm
Well,
not
the
okay.
reason I say that is because we have a choice. And I don't think we often think we have it, especially with that question. Do you want some feedback? You're not going to like it.
And I know you're not going to like it. So I already am prepared for the, I'm preparing before it even happens.
Yeah, you're going to defend your maybe not necessarily defend yourself, but close down for sure.
I'm preparing, but what I'm doing is I'm hardening myself, not softening myself. I'm armoring up. There's a way I would describe it. I'm armoring up myself to get ready for the attack. Like that's, you're asking me kind of, and I think you asked the question in most where and I've talked about this in the work that we do around feedback. It often comes from when we're very young that we're told all the time, like, stop that. That was bad. Sit up. There's this correctingness of us as we're growing up. And we often fill a lot of our time in thinking we need to do that to our people we care about to help them grow. It's done. And that's what I would say, like, after I got the feedback that I knew I wasn't going to like, apparently. I know it comes from my partner, was my spouse. I know it always comes from a good place, a place where it's important and he's trying to help me. He feels it will help me. Yeah, that I need to hear this. So I know it comes from a good place, but it took me to this morning to hold the feedback in that lens.
Right.
It was like very, very, it often becomes to me like I'm being attacked personally. My character, so I do believe we learn that feedback should happen when you need to help people correct themselves or prevent them from harm or whatever our story is around why and when we give feedback. So that's been, I think, a lot of our norms growing up. So to me, that's why the word feedback for me automatically, I start to armor up.
Yeah. And I don't think it helps that I would say the vast majority of us are not very skilled at giving feedback. So even if it's given with the best of intentions, safety, progression, learning, whatever, if you're not skilled at it and you start giving it and you don't know how to give it, will it ever even be received? Or are you actually doing more damage than good to that person's self-esteem and ability to grow and all that stuff?
And on the flip side is the awareness to know, is that person open and ready for it? And what does that person need? And so there's a lot of discernment you just talked about of when we are in that place where we want to provide the generosity of feedback, and we've learned a certain way of doing that, which we're going to do in our next workshop, that a model that really kind of encapsulates how we grow our giving feedback, but also our receiving feedback. How we can prepare, and that person can almost design or articulate what they are looking for feedback. So what a great gift to say, like, well, what do you want for feedback, versus thinking you need this. I know you need this.
That I actually just thought about this before we came on, just to kind of like get some thoughts out onto paper. And I started thinking about when we give feedback, generally it's because of our own perceived belief of what we think is right. So our own assessments of what is right, what our opinion is, while giving feedback, that's likely how I'm slanting it, because I want you to perform a certain way for me because it helps me, not necessarily what's going to serve this person in their growth and expansion for themselves. Does that make sense? Like if I own a business and I want it to run the way I do it, my slant and perspective is going to be to serve me and my business. So I need you to do the work the way I want you to do the work. So I can see that, like your own motives, I'm not saying they're bad. I'm just saying your own motives will impact the way that you deliver that feedback.
I mean, that could be one reason why you feel I think there's multiple reasons and purpose for feedback. You know, in a learning world, like there's ways that we need to give people observations and feedback. So I'm not sure it's always the word self-fulfilling. I think
it might be self-serving. It might be.
I think that, yeah, I would not want to box it into one reason why. I know over the years with the multiple things I've been involved in to support people to learn something, or to they're trying to get better at something, my intentions are not always self-serving. It's because, you know, I have maybe some knowledge, some skill that I can add in to them, but how I go about it, the how, has shifted fundamentally in the last 10 years once I got exposed to, you know, a process around giving and receiving feedback. It shifted the way I engage. So I think I would hate to box it in as always self-serving, because I don't feel that way at all about what I've observed in different aspects of why it is really important to give feedback.
And the reason I wanted to talk about this was because I've had a few experiences the last little while that have just reinforced to me how poor we are at giving feedback. So because we have a tool that is helpful and useful and we use it regularly, I think it'd be great to start sharing that with more people so that we can get better at it as a whole. I've heard the sandwich approach comes up often. I'll give something good and then I'll give something that they maybe don't want to hear, and then I'll give them something else good. And we've all heard that and seen that coming. So you're still armoring up regardless. Or if you want some feedback, you're already armored. So learning a way to allow people to be more open and ready to receive, and then give an appropriate amount of feedback that's layered with what went well. We don't spend a lot of time there before getting into the things that we weren't necessarily pleased with, and giving them in bite-sized, manageable chunks so that they can do something with it. If you end up with a laundry list of things you have to do or change or correct, I would be overwhelmed. So how do we do it in a way that serves everybody? And so it becomes a way that we, maybe enjoy might not be the right word, but it can start looking forward to it in a different way, as opposed to being so guarded around it.
Yeah, I think the way you go about it, the tool is really important to figure out, because we haven't really been. I don't know, because I know for sure my children didn't experience it going through school. You know, they get a report card, you know, so and they didn't have any development there. And I don't know about the next generation, but I do know in the workplace, generally in relationships, in friendships, it's something that we struggle with, because you know, there's sensitivities around it all, and getting the rigor is one thing around that, but the second thing is building internal capacity to, you know, the inner knowing part, you know, understand. And the way the model that we use, we get the clues where that a person's at before we discern what we want to give them. So I think that's just so honoring again, because if it truly is, the feedback is a gift, something you want to do to help that person grow, be aware of something, try to, lead them, help support them so they're not going into, a rabbit hole that, because you can see potential harm that it's causing them, all the reasons why you feel it's important for them. It gives you a clue before you just can say, well, okay, is it needed or not? Because often they know. And so last night, maybe the question could have been started with, tell me what you think, how you're feeling about this particular situation right now, and what do you feel is working? It could have been my opportunity to speak first versus, it going to me right away so it's now what I think happens when there's no front end loading for that person to speak first or to express where they're at. We talk about this, there's no room, because I immediately went into defense mode. Well, you didn't ask me and I could have told you. And so I'm going to use a P word, but I'm not going to say it out loud, but it ends with, there's 2 S's at the end, off right now. So my capacity to so I just went quiet, because what I've learned is, okay, I don't need to say I agree or disagree, because I'm not happy with the way this was presented to me. So I need to own that it's come to me, and I'm going to sit with it, and and I'm going to sleep on it. But I have built capacity, so I know, I understand, I have the ability to let that sit long enough to say in the next morning, what part of that do I want to keep, and what part am I not going to own, and is there anything I want to do with that feedback?
Yeah, I think that's part of the equation that isn't factored in, is the receiver and the receiver's choice as to what they take, how they take, and what they do with it going forward. That it's not gospel, whatever's given to you as what needs to happen. I remember, you'll remember this. We did a workshop, full week long, great workshop. And I ended up getting some non-solicited feedback when I got back to my office the next week or whatever. And like you, I was not really offered an off-ramp to this conversation, but I also didn't even know that I could say no, or not now, or whatever. And I ended up, like you, sitting back and taking it. And I wrote down everything, 2 pages, front and back, of feedback. Now I write kind of big, so that's not fair, but it's still a lot. And after we were done, I thanked this person, and I don't know if I meant it at the time, but I thanked her for it. But being able to sit with it afterwards and then decide for myself, was there any value here? And if we can come to the consensus that all feedback is a gift, even if it's not delivered the way that you would like it delivered, it's a gift. And you have a choice to choose some, none, or all of it as something you want to do something about. And there was a couple of nuggets there, maybe if they were a little sharp to hear, were helpful in my development, because I chose to do something with them because I thought they had merit and value for me and where I was going and what I was doing. So I can honor that as the gift that it was. It just wasn't presented to me as though I would like to receive.
Yeah, I remember that specific event myself. That was quite a week, and there was a part of my job at that time, and you were just joining forces with me as cohorts in this together. In Train the Trainer. That was part of our role, was to give feedback using our feedback model, letting them empty their cup and then filling their cup up with specifics, because they were building capacity to do this on their own. There was same thing. There was I had a similar situation where one individual was quite upset with me about my feedback. And so and I got that written to me and very concerning. So I made a point of saying, okay, let's get back together because I do not want to leave our relationship this way. So when we came back on together and I explained because we did a team charter and we talked about how this whole process of learning and development was going to be used for the feedback. And I said, here's what my intentions were. And now you're telling me how it made you feel. So that was never my intention. But again, he had time. So immediately after, it was upsetting. But then he goes, "Oh, Karen, I've been thinking about it. And yes, we exactly what we agreed we were going to do and how we were going to do it." So even when, because why I'm talking about this is even when we do it as skillfully as we can with our, rigor and practice and agreement, it still can be hard. So it still can be stingy. And I think I don't think that ever goes away. Now, can you build on, because we're talking about when we have to talk about the areas that might not be a little trickier, there's growth or development, or maybe there was some missteps or whatever happened. That's the part that, that's the part we're all waiting for. Let's be honest, because that's what we've heard from probably 1 year old to our current ages. So we still have that reaction of tightening up. So it's just learning in that part is, I know I'm going to be tight. Can I stay present enough to let it come in, but not absorb me, not take me over, not, send me on so just learning to let it come in. And my biggest gift now, because I would defend myself pretty fast, is to just let it sit and not react to it and process it. And like you did, discerning, sometimes it means putting it away, which in our work, we get people to write stuff down, like close it up, like, go back to it. So I think that, this idea of even putting, like we talk about in coaching, is let it be processed. And then building the capacity to, honor yourself enough to say, because you just said something about at the very beginning that it's self-serving. I think it comes from the same place it always does, is all we have is our view out. So what we're giving is, here's what it looked like from my way of seeing the world and my perceptions and beliefs and values. I've done my best to give you concrete examples, because that's one of the things we do. Like, it needs to be like concrete. None of this, well, you were going a little fast in that one part. No, here are the things that I observed. Here's an example. Here's where I saw it. Giving specificity. See, look at that. I even got that word today. Really is useful, because how can I understand what that means if I don't know what it was? So, even doing that, like, it doesn't mean you're going to go away and not still have those, perhaps, because it is their perception. You're still going to need processing, saying, is that useful to me and where I am and how I want to show up? Because I've seen one person give me accolades about something I did and really felt it was helpful. And the next person, if I have two people saying it's a tricky for them, because again, there's two views coming towards me, which if you can start to, I'm going to say, embrace was the word that was coming out, although last night I didn't embrace it very well. No, I did this morning. Embrace their perspectives and their intentions and what they saw. It's helpful because now I can discern, okay, like what part of me how will that serve me? Is there anything I want to shift because I want to be perhaps more relatable to a larger audience? So is there a balance in between of these two? So I don't know. It's really building the capacity, and this is what we're going to do at the workshop. Start to build capacity so that that's available to understand the rigor and how you can go about this, capturing the gifts and the what went wells and that area that's a little, that needs work or maybe trickier or is a little muddy. Like, when we do something for the first time, even in our workshops, Ian, we do the feedback model. What went well? What was tricky? What will we do differently the next time? Because you often don't get your lessons till after.
No, because you don't have time to process. And I think that's what you were highlighting there, is that you needed processing time for that to even be usable. Until then, it was I'm not labeling it, but it was criticism. Before that, it's criticism. But if you can soften and process, that criticism could be a useful thing to learn from. And I think part of this is because we don't spend enough time in what went well. Because oftentimes that piece that was critical to somebody else and criticism to you wasn't the majority of what was experienced or performed or whatever. And I think we do things so much better than we think we do, because we don't spend any time often dwelling on and celebrating the parts that we did well. Because, and you said this earlier as well, when we do get to the part that we stumbled a little bit, we know we tripped. We know we tripped and fell and everybody saw. Like that, we know. However, you might have done better than you thought you did in the eyes of the other person. And maybe your recovery was really good, even though you did trip and fall. So how can, once you hear what somebody has to say and their version of events, you now have more information at your disposal to serve them and providing even better, more well-rounded feedback. Because there's nuance there that's missed if it's only your perspective without getting the other person's perspective as well. So learning how to give feedback in a way that allows the message to come out from the receiver before piling on. And instead of piling on, adding in, I think is super beneficial and helpful for people to understand and to experience, so that they know that it can be done in a way that is supportive.
I felt like it's like fulsome feedback was what came out for me, is seeing me as a whole. And then to honor what and I love that you just said, because the helping me see where I'm already doing things well. Because, we know this, we often beat ourselves up. There's an inner critic in all of us, and so hearing from what they saw, and that's something, when you ground it with examples, it really helps me. Because I may have said it was a tricky for me when I did empty my cup. And then you come back and say, well, let me tell you what it looked like from my view. And if I get something that's entirely different to where my little judge thought, even though it might not shift me right away, now I have to let in the good. There's the word. I think I've talked about this in the past. How often when someone compliments us, we go, oh, no. This top, I was cheap, like, or my hair, or I got, like, I'm using examples.
Yeah. I don't play that all the time.
Or I really like you're a really good coach. Oh, I'm okay. I'm still learning. Like you often will, I've been guilty of that. You may just not want that light on you. And so, and I get that. I feel it's still in me to truly accept the compliments, the appreciation of me. I struggle with that still to this day. Because I wonder if it's because so often when feedback comes to us, we're waiting for the shoe. And so we know how to deal with that.
It's up there.
And we teach in our feedback model that it's a gift and all you can say is thank you. And when you're giving the feedback, it is a gift. You have zero expectation that person needs to. You're insisting on anything to be changed, because we talk about this in the coaching world. If you give them a gift of feedback and you give them an example and an intention behind it of the why, of to help them grow or move forward. I mean, this is all negotiated beforehand. This should not be a surprise. Is that it's then up to them, like to do what you and I talk about, to process it and pick what they feel will serve them. Because they know themselves. We get a little window of humans. I mean, we've known each other for 13 years, Ian, but we don't know our full each other. You know, we get together for a purpose and a reason. We have become friends, colleagues, you know, we understand our families, but we're not in everyday life. So, and even when you are, you don't know that person as well as they know themselves.
Not a chance. Yeah.
So it's just that honoring that that person will discern what they need and want and will keep. And I did my part by really providing high quality, very specific feedback for their learning and development. They had a chance to talk about it first before I opened my big mouth, which was a big learning for me, especially as a manager. I wasn't trained that way. You do the performance review and then you give it to them. How fair is that? You know, and in other words, why don't we co-create this? Here's the indicators. You do yours, I do mine. Let's get together and talk about it. Way different way of looking at things. So, and it's a great starting point because now you have the view of themselves and you have the view of them. So it's way more, I believe, fruitful for them.
Yeah.
And for you. So
you mentioned that it's the fulsomeness of the way that we give feedback is serving, because I don't know if feedback is the right term when you're just dumping on somebody. We got to rebrand it. We got to come up with our own label. Feedback has this very negative connotation.
You know, again, our words are strong and powerful. If we, there's two ways to look at it. You change the name or you don't. But you say, I'm going to create a way to do it that will be successful for everyone. A one way. There's more than one way. We know this, right? So, but what we've learned about the specific one that we were gifted by someone else, it's really served us individually and in our work that we do, in the way we work with our families, and just how I can, and more importantly for me, is I've learned how I can hold feedback for myself better, because it's not going to come this way. I know that I'm until this gets out into the world and gets embodied as a way that we do this, not once a year, not once a month, that it's almost habitually in our lives.
Yeah.
That we create that whenever we're doing something together, that it will be demystified and no longer seen as a weapon of mass destruction. I don't know why I said that, but I did.
Oh, I'm sure it's on everybody's mind as right now anyways. However, so I think that's key is being able to describe the why of feedback. The why of the feedback that we want to share with you is meant to be fulsome, bite-sized, led with an intention of growth and development, and understood that you have a choice as to what you take and what you don't take, and how you decide to use that feedback for your own development. So we don't know what we're calling it yet, but it's definitely a feedback workshop. There's QR code in the top corner above my head if you want to sign up for it. It's May 7th, 1:00. And it's going to be a great way, I think, for people to grow and develop their skills of giving and receiving feedback. Cool.
Cool.
All right. Take care, everybody. We will see you next week. Bye.
Bye.